Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Father.
Thank God you're not feeling cold in this cold day with our heat is not working. That means you have God's love burning in your heart. That's a good thing. I wish that it happens to a lot of our parishioners in Mother Day. When the God's love is burning in our hearts, then nothing bothers. Even the cold becomes warmth now for us. Today is the memorial that we celebrate is Saint Ambrose. I don't know how many of you know about Saint Ambrose. Saint Ambrose was a good man before he became a bishop. A good man, a good negotiator, a man who was really good in a secular society. So the bishop at the town was died. He died, and they were looking for a man that is good, a good priest. Usually the priests get to be ordained as a bishop. They couldn't find somebody that is really good, so they said, "This guy is good, but he's not a bishop. What are you gonna do?" So finally, they said, "No, he's good. So let's make him a, priest and a bishop." They made him the priest and the bishop, and that's how he became the bishop. But very prayerful man, because Monica, I don't know if you know, the mother of Saint Augustine, goes to Bishop Ambrose and said, "Please pray for my son." And he says the word that the son of the tears, yours will not be, go without a fruit or something like the similar words. And what happened later? The prayer that she requested to Saint Ambrose made probably, that kind of being fruitful, that Saint Augustine become Saint Augustine and become one of the pillars of the church. So that's the connection of Saint Ambrose here. But remember, she's also close to the Blessed Mother, Saint Ambrose. That's why if you notice, December 8th is the feast day of Immaculate Conception, and his feast day comes close to it, just like Saint John Paul II. Saint John Paul II was died the day before Divine Mercy Sunday. So that it connects. The God is so good in that sense. He was very much close to this the feast of the Blessed Mother, very close. So you see that saints die, or people who they die close to that feast because it is formed to their heart. Sure. So Saint Ambrose was very close to the Blessed Mother. See that in his talks and writings, you see. But here you see that he says, "Come to me." Jesus says also, "Come to me, all you labor and burden, and I will give you rest." I did not get this meaning for a long, long time. Long time I never got this meaning, because I said, Jesus says, "Come, come to me, all you labor and burden." But then he says, not coming to me, then take my yoke. I said, "What do you mean? Coming is okay," but then he says, "Take my yoke." Okay, he's calling you for rest, and he says, "Take my yoke." Is it a rest? If I call you to say, "Come to me and rest," and he says, "Take my yoke," it's like, a husband or wife, you say, "Honey, come here, I give you rest." And say, "Okay, now take this. Wash all dishes, do the laundry." Kind of similar here. It says, "Take my yoke," and says, "Learn from me." So he's not calling you to rest just to be lazy, but he's calling you, take the yoke and learn from him. There's two things here happening when he comes. He calls you to the rest, then he's taking us to take the yoke and learn. And that what happened, he says, then, because he says, "I am meek and humble of heart." Two things we really need. Two things we need in our life. I'm meek and humble. As a priest, that's what I think, because why I'm not meek and humble? Because I'm not going to rest, and I'm not taking the yoke of Jesus, and I'm not learning from Jesus. So any priests who are not meek and humble, this is three things they're not doing. They are not resting enough in Jesus, and they're not taking his yoke, and they are not learning from Jesus. So I could see in myself there very much, it says, you will find rest for yourself. Many times people ask, are you still busy, Father? Yes, I am busy. And I say, how can I rest if I don't have Jesus? My mom always tells me, do you have time to be with Jesus? And I'm like, I don't know. I have a hard time to tell her yes or no, because she always comes and says because she always pushed to stay with Jesus, and says my yoke is easy and my burden light. So I was happy Kathy didn't show up yesterday morning, that he was making breakfast for the priest that we have, Father Dwight. I was happy to see that, because he's taking that rest. And to see that priest is taking the rest is also coming to that point here, that when the priests rest in Jesus, that is where God can teach them more. And I believe it very much in myself, that I had to be completely still. Especially when a person is going go, it's very hard to be still. That if you work hard every day, to be still is the hardest for you. That's why Jesus says, those who come to me, all you who labor and are burdened. You clean your dishes, you do all those things at home, but if you're working really hard, this is very hard to do it. But you have to remember this verse again and again, come to me if you're working hard. Because the only way we can you receive rest, is if we are with Jesus. If you don't, what happens? You turn on the TV, you switch all those channels, and you're more tired. You go to bed, you're going to flip around, back and forth. You can't sleep either. All right? Until come to Jesus. We need to learn how to do this. Is a process. As a people of God, it's a process. If I cannot sleep, and if I don't get rest, if I'm not really, getting my time with Jesus, it means I'm not resting in Jesus. And that's why, adoration, that helps us. That's why he says, come to me. He's calling us. Come to me. That's how Jesus helps us to come to you, to really rest. Not think about something else, think about worries and people, families. And when we meet people here, come to adoration, I can tell you that they sit here, but they're thinking about everything else in the world. Okay, they think about their husband, they think about their mother-in-law, they think about their mothers, they think about their children, they think about everybody else. And they say, I don't know, I went to pray and I'm not really. We're distracted. See, if I'm not with Jesus, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, and physically here, then I'm not in prayer. And that is Jesus said, the call is clear, come to me. Let us listen to the word and say, be with Jesus. Anything else, even if it's anything that worries or anxiety comes to in prayer, that's a distraction. Let us put them outside the door. Let us be with Jesus. And let us enter